Hey guys, what's up? Alright. Welcome back to my channel. Well, today I got a couple of ideas I'm going to throw out there. If anybody's listening, give me some feedback. Some are a little weird, some are a little hack ideas. But I do have some things in mind to try to remedy this crank problem on this. So, here we go. So, here's my idea. Okay. First off, I put a video up of how to convert your L400 to a brushless setup. I will put a link down below for that because these are garbage. These things burn right out. I mean, it was probably a good idea in the thought process. I found these online here. They're like $5 a piece. They're almost identical of the size and everything, but there's no holes in the front to mount it. This is off an airsoft gun, so I'll probably go back to my brushless setup. But now everybody's been talking about putting, you know, kind of a center bearing in here, you know, to kind of support the crankshaft. Now, if you look at the crankshafts here, I'm going to zoom in on them. They're both broke at the same exact spot. And I noticed Steve there from Black LA Mass is broke there. And I believe Tim from Tim Sane, which I haven't heard nothing from in a long time, he was, his broke too in the same exact spot. So, it tells me there's, a major malfunction here. Now, when you look at this whole setup, I mean, this engine, don't get me wrong, it's an engineering marvel. It's genius. Has plenty of power. But this is the growing pains that you got to go through, and I wish they would have done more testing on it. So I got my Aussie V8 here to compare the crankshafts. Okay. Now this is a cast. It's like a casted material. Get a look in on there. You see, it's porous inside, so it's broken. And now this is you see the different colors here. This is more of a bronze brown, and this one here is more of a black. So they did do a different heat treating process. But here's what I'm looking at here on this crankshaft, okay? We got an 8mm shaft at the back. We got a 6mm rod journal. We got a 12mm like main journal on this thing. Back to a 6, back to a 12, back to a 6, back to a 12, back to a 6, and then out here is an 8, okay? Now, when you turn over this camshaft, it's got a lot of resistance in there. Takes a little bit of strain on this. So my thought process is, when you load this clutch down on this thing and the front is loaded as it is, okay, with the you're running your water pump and your camshaft up here, so there's a tremendous strain on both ends of this crankshaft, so it's going to wobble, and it's going to. And now I know Tim Sane, the last I talked to him, when he come up with his center bearing support, he used the bronze bushing in there, and he oiled his. He used this area right here, and he piped in oil in his, and it still broke. So that tells me there's not enough surface area here on these rod journals, these 6mm rod journals, okay? Now, Steve from Black LA Mass, he suggested maybe making these bigger. I would probably bring them up to an 8mm and then change the rods. Make the rod a little beefier on the bottom, and I would bring that up a couple of millimeters to try that. Now, this is kind of like the hack idea. What I was going to do, being I got a couple of broken crankshafts, I was going, but the thing is, I got to spend hours and hours on this to do this, when all I have to do is throw this in a box and let Toyan figure it out. And because it's their baby, it's not mine. This is not my problem to fix, okay? But when you're stuck waiting, now I ordered 2 of these crankshafts. I bought them and I haven't heard back from them yet. They said that Toyan was going to contact me, so I'm waiting to see. I shouldn't have to keep buying crankshaft. What I should be doing is buying their new engines. You see, instead of, it was $273 for 2 of these crankshafts. You know, and I put the expedited shipping so I can get them quicker. But the thing is, though, they're going to break again. You know, and so that $273 I could have put towards another engine. You know what I mean? So they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot here by not fixing this problem. So what I did was, I thought, okay, if you cut this journal right out of here, even if you stuck with a 6mm journal, you're going to have to drill through. Now you see how I got these little pilot marks here? Now on the first Conley engines, they were pinned together. Like everything was pinned. They had their counterweights, and then they had their mains, and they were pinned, and their rods were pinned. They were all pinned together with a machine fit. And so my thought was this: if I drilled these out, okay, and pinned them, it's, you know, if I did this one, I know it's going to break somewhere else, or it's going to loosen this up and crack this here, because the metal that this is made out of, if they use like stainless or a solid piece of steel, I think they would be better off. Now, I'll get back to that in a minute. So my thought process was to drill through all these, put one solid 6mm rod, pin it in 4 places, probably on the sides, not on the top, because the inertia may pull that pin out. So if it's pinned on the sides, okay, now that totally strengthens this whole area. Now we're not using this center bearing, so these are just free space. As long as the rod doesn't hit something over here. Now, if you turn the crank around over here, like so. Now see, this is a flat plane crank. You got 2 on one side, 2 on the other. So you don't have to worry about a, you know, every 45 degrees something firing. It's every 90. Now, if I drilled through all these and pinned this, which I don't know if I'd have enough room there, maybe. But the problem is the space between here and the space between here is different. So if I put 2 pins here, one on the top, and then I ran one here, you're going to have to balance the flywheel somehow, or in the harmonic balancer, because now it's going to be out of balance, because the difference is longer in the center than it is on the sides. Now that will greatly strengthen the crankshaft as far as wobbling, if these are all pinned together here, here, and across the bottom. It's going to give it external strength. However, it's going to need rebalanced. Now, let's get to this. Back this out here a little bit and bring this up. So, what I did was I got bored with all this crap and I'm just throwing money in the toilet is all I'm doing here. So, we're going to take this, set it over here. So like I say, I ordered all the stuff I needed. I got the roller rockers and stuff. I got my pistons and cylinders coming, and my head gaskets. Now, I don't know which carb I'm going to use on this or not, because I like the wobble style carbs there, but I do have this OS carb I had for a long time. I'll probably start off with this and put it on there, because I don't think it needs something this complicated and this big, but it looks cool on there. Now, if you look at their crankshaft on this, this is a one-piece steel crank, okay? And you can actually see on some of the areas here, it's all one piece. It's ground, and hardened. Okay. Now these are 8mm. They're not 6. And then I can't remember what the centers are. I do believe they're like 3/8 or something, but it's good size. Let me see what the millimeters is here on this. Yeah, it's a little over 12 millimeter, 1270, 1275, something like that. So it's like a 12mm, same size as the center mains that don't do nothing here. Now here's what I'm thinking: if this is the back of the Toyan crank, if they put a 12mm shaft on the back here, balance the flywheel, and put a harmonic balancer on the front of it or something to equal the the inertia out and take the shock waves of the vibration. Because the reason they have a harmonic balancer, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what they are. That's that big round thing that sits on the front of your engine. And now the stock, like auto manufacturers, they have a just a piece of casted steel with a keyway goes on there, and then there's a ring of rubber, and then there is another piece of casted steel collected to that. What that does is it draws all the vibration from the crankshaft to that, and it frees it. It doesn't let it go back and forth, and that's what will fracture a metal. It'll crack it. So anyways, so if Toyan put the harmonic balancer and all that and made a bigger crankshaft, say they used steel, and they use 8mm centers instead of 6. They put a 12 on the back. Now we could run a bigger clutch, you see, if they put a 12 shaft on the back here. It ain't gonna break it. However, if they put 3, bolt in, it's very simple, because like I say, Tim saying he did it. It just goes in and it bolts through, and it bolts on from the oil pan too. So when you get it all together, you can bolt it all down. Everything is bolted from the side and the back here. Now he used the bronze bushing in his, and he says it got really hot. But it's so maybe this is going to need to be machined, okay? Or if they don't want to machine this, they could put 3 regular size bearings, like just round bearings, say 4x11 or whatever, had 3 bearings that would support that, roller bearings, that would drastically reduce the friction on the crankshaft, and it would let it free roll. Now the only other problem you'd be having with that is, these things do rev quite a bit. How good would the bearings be? But so far I've not heard of any of these crankshafts breaking on these Aussie V8s or Conley engines. So I know they wear out, but I've never heard anybody saying they broke a crankshaft. If you have, let me know. I'd like to know, because I'm focusing more on this stuff now, because I know this is a proven thing. And if you look at the size comparison of the V8 compared to the Toyan, I've done this before. They're almost scaled to like the 4-cylinder size compared to the V8 size. And I know that in a 6th scale build or a 5th scale build, I'll be able to put this in there without a problem, and it wouldn't look dorky. I wouldn't be able to put it into like an 8th scale. It would be a little large. It would be cool looking, but so hopefully by the end of the month, most of the other stuff will be here for this, so I'll get this up and running. Now, like I say, with this, getting back to the Toyan stuff, if they want some of my ideas or something, whatever, just hit me up. You know what I mean? Email me, and I will, try to throw the reason I'm making this video is so Toyan will see this video, because like I say, make a 1-piece steel crank, okay? Not this crap casted crap. Make a 1-piece steel one, 8mm, rod journals, and they'll have to make a bigger rod. And I would bring this, like I say, up to a 12 millimeter, you know, and you could still have your, you know, your 6 millimeter threads on the back here, but have the 12 so we can adapt it, something to it, bigger. Now they advertise this as a RC engine, you know what I mean? They say this is an RC engine, and it's phenomenal. I mean, don't get me wrong. And here's another thing I wanted to touch base on. This company has just really started getting their feet wet. Okay, they just started, you know, they're up and coming. Nobody else out there does this. So it's not that I want to throw them under the bus, but I want them to address the problems that, you know, they have created something that it blew the world away when this come out. Okay, it is a engineering marvel, you know, for the RC world. Plenty of power, you know. I mean, when it's running, it stays running. I mean, it's not a big fuel hog either. It doesn't use a lot of nitro fuel, because I've had my 2-cylinder, you know, L400s use way more fuel than this thing has, and you can lean this thing right out and everything's fine, you know. So if we could just get whatever problems that they have here taken care of with this engine, the rest of it is really nothing, you know. I mean, as long as the engine ain't self-destructing, you could pretty much fine-tune everything. Hey, if you're having trouble with the carbs, you know, you can put 2 bigger carburetors on the thing, you know what I mean? And like I say, with the, you know, make it strong enough where, you know, put a harmonic balancer on the front. That would help greatly. Bigger journals. If you wanted to put a support in there in the center, you know, like I say, use the 3 roller bearing ideas that crank can ride on. That way you can have 2, say 1 on the bottom of the piece that bolts in here, and then on the cap you have 2. That way there, it creates a triangle around this center journal here. You won't have to machine it or nothing. And as long as the tolerances are close, this thing, even if it had a little movement in it back and forth, which would be normal, you know, it won't overheat and it won't drag down on the performance of the engine. So I know that bronze bushings and stuff, they're you know, they're really proven in RC engines. I mean, you could just put a bronze bushing in there and let the you know, let the blow by from the, you know, the cylinders lubricate them just by putting a couple of small machined areas from, like, if it bolts up in the top here, up in here, like, have a small groove that comes right down to the bearing, right out of the piston. That way the, you know, the pressure will push that excess oil right into that bronze bushing. So, and another thing, like I say, the last time, I haven't talked to Tim in months and months and months. I don't know. I hope he's okay. He just, you know, he hasn't responded to nothing. And he told me that these bearings that they send for the, you know, the front and the back are really loose. And I was looking at it, and they are really loose. I mean, look at that bearing flop back and forth there. You know, I mean, if you look at that bearing, it's like, there's a lot of movement in that bearing, you know. And, which is good in one way, bad in another, because now it lets that crank really flex all over the place. So, those are my ideas. You know, it's a, like I say, pinning the crankshaft with the 6 millimeter pins, you know, would strengthen it greatly. But, you know, but then again, where it's pinned here, and then where you're pinned down here, you still have that opening in these areas where it's going to be weak. You know what I mean? Even though it goes across there, it may help it. I don't know. Like I say, there's really no options other than making a new, stronger crankshaft with bigger journals. And I think Steve from Black LA Mass is right. I mean, a bigger journal, and a steel crank, it would be fine. You know, I think that would take care of the problem. But Anywho, like I say, like, share, subscribe if you want. You know, any questions, comments, throw them out there. I've been crazy busy lately trying to get caught up on things. And now I'm dealing with all my Toyan builds are pretty much shelved right now because of small little problems. So I'm going to concentrate on this and just kind of go in a different direction for a while until I get back with Toyan. Like I say, they're great. They're a great engine. They're the only company out there other than the new, what's that, in Amorja or whatever, that company, they come out with that new NR200. I bought one of those. It's coming. Actually, this should hopefully be shipped out by the same time that these parts are here. So I'll be busy in September. But so far, the only fault of this engine that I could see is the crankshaft. That's it. So I mean, they've really, you know, it's a cool engine, you know, and I don't know, you know, it's like, I know it's a learning process, and you know, when companies are young, you know, they make mistakes. You know, mistakes are made. Things aren't tested. Sometimes they get out the door, and they probably have a, you know, a budget that they have to keep their employees paid, keep the overhead paid, and all that. So they're gonna have to sell a lot of these things. One thing that I did see, you can still buy this engine on the websites. All right, even though they know that it has a problem. You know, I mean, I would probably temporarily hold off on selling these things because you're only creating more problems here. You're just making the problem bigger by selling. You're making a lot more enemies than you are friends here in this by doing this. So, you know, I hated to even call this out, but if I didn't say something, there's going to be however many thousands of these sold sitting on shelves somewhere that don't run. It's going to be useless. They're going to be, you know, totally useless, and they're great to look at, but you know, if they don't run, you know, what good are they? So anyway, that's it for today. I'm going to pick away at this here and try to do some thought processing on this and make some time to assemble this. I'll probably do an assembly video. You know, because Gary was cool enough to send me the assembly process for this engine, and I'll go over that when I build mine, and that way everybody can kind of see it, and we'll test it out. I mean, these things have been pretty much tested, you know, so far, and they've been really proven. He does have a new billet head now. It comes complete with the valves, and it has bronze or brass valve guides in it and everything else, and I guess it flows better. So I just noticed that when I ordered the rest of my stuff. But anyway, you guys have a good one, and keep the faith. You know, we'll figure this problem out. I ain't scared. You know, if not, we'll find a machine shop somewhere out there that, like, you know, like Tim from Tim saying he was on, you know, trying to remedy these problems, you know, and like I say, unfortunately, you know, we haven't heard from him. So but if I do, I'll let you guys know. But all right, man, you guys take care and have a good one. Adios.